The theme from Knight Rider blared from my pocket, the synthesized beat cutting through the humid Austin night. Who is the one who is righteous? Who is the one who is invincible? I killed the engine on my Vespa, the little scooter sputtering to a halt. It had seen better days, but it still got me from point A to point B. Annoyed, I fished the burner phone from my jeans. The screen glowed with 2 words, the wife. I didn't have to guess who was behind that particular prank. I thumbed the answer button. Yeah, what's up? I'm busy. A roar that could only be described as a Texas tornado blasted through the tiny speaker. Jake Miller, don't you dare tell me you forgot. It's the anniversary. Get your ass over here now. I held the phone an inch further from my ear. A rock dropped in my stomach. Right, of course I remember. How could I forget? I said, my voice suddenly lacking any of its earlier confidence. I'm on my way. I hung up before she could unleash another volley. I sat there on the scooter, looking at the worn-out keypad of the cheap flip phone. There probably weren't many guys my age who were screwing up their lives as spectacularly as I was. My name is Jake Miller. No home, no job, no money. The trifecta. My family used to have money, a lot of it, and I was perfectly content being a useless trust fund kid. Then when I was 15, it all went sideways. The market crashed, my parents lost everything, and they couldn't face it. They jumped from the roof of their downtown office building. The only silver lining was that their remaining assets perfectly covered their debts, so at least I didn't start my new life in the red. Overnight, I went from the enviable Jake Miller, whose biggest problem was deciding which car to drive, to a bum that even stray dogs avoided. If it wasn't for Chloe Anderson's mom, who took me in for my own mother's sake, they've been best friends, I honestly don't know what would have happened to me. The Texas tornado on the phone was Chloe, my mom's best friend's daughter. She lived next door back when my parents were alive. My childhood friend, I guess you could call her. Though friend wasn't exactly the right word. We were more like mortal enemies who were forced to share a zip code. The first time we met, she stole my favorite action figure. It didn't help that she took up MMA. Don't ask me how I know. One day, I saw her kick a 1-inch thick piece of plywood clean in 2. The sight of it turned my blood to ice. After that, our fights were strictly verbal. I was terrified of ending up like that splintered board, but seeing that she could intimidate me, that damn tornado only got more aggressive, always using her strength to bully me. Thinking about it just brings back bad memories. Better get going before she calls again. I spun the Vespa around and started to head back. Just then, a stooped, white-haired old man shuffled past and grabbed my arm, a wide grin spreading across his face. I watched him, confused, as he smiled, showing off the few yellowed teeth he had left. What was his deal? I found out a second later. He let go of his cane, clutched my pant leg, and flopped onto the pavement, letting out a pained ow wow. I almost had to laugh. Of all the people to try and pull a slip-and-fall scam on, he picks the guy whose scooter was a third-hand rust bucket. I didn't yell at him. I just calmly got off the scooter, pulled a cigarette from my pocket, and stuck it between my lips. I pointed at a nearby telephone pole with the cigarette. Nice try, Pops, I said with a grin. But you see that camera up there? It caught your whole performance crystal clear. The old man, surprisingly nimble, rolled over and propped himself up on one elbow, his other hand still clamped firmly on my pants. He squinted his eyes into thin slits. You're still wet behind the ears, kid, he said, his voice dripping with smugness. I disabled all the cameras around here myself earlier today. There's no one around. Who else am I going to shake down but you? For my pain and suffering, I'm thinking. $10,000 sound about right. Now I did laugh. You're that sure the cameras are broken? Absolutely. I've lived in this neighborhood for years, Sonny. Now cut the crap and pay up. Seeing his arrogant smirk, I'd had enough. Pay you. I'll pay you in a knuckle sandwich. 10 grand? Get the hell out of here with that crap. His confession was all I needed. I leaned down and slapped him across the face. While he was stunned, I yanked my leg free, jumped on the Vespa, and sped off, flipping him the bird over my shoulder. Honestly, letting off some steam like that felt pretty damn good. In my rearview mirror, I saw the old man scramble to his feet with surprising speed, shaking his fist and screaming after me. You broke bastard. Can't even cough up 10 grand. I hope you have kids with no assholes. Damn scooter punk. You'll be riding that piece of junk for the rest of your life. Goddamn son of a bitch. Why don't you drive into a wall? I just focused on the road, letting his curses fade into the wind. The angrier he got, the better I felt. Serve him right for trying to scam me. I'm no good Samaritan. I was still congratulating myself when a massive semi-truck suddenly appeared from around a blind corner. I squeezed the brakes, and my heart went cold. My trusty old Vespa, my companion for so long, finally gave up the ghost. The brakes were shot. In the split second before impact, my only thought was that old man's mouth blessed by the devil? How could his curse be so accurate? When I opened my eyes again, I was staring at the sterile white ceiling tiles of a hospital room. My throat felt like it was on fire. With all my strength, I managed to croak out, "Water! I need water!" At that moment, a face came into view. It was angelic, a girl with clear, innocent eyes, a butterfly clip in her hair, a perfectly straight nose, and cherry red lips. The sight of her made my heart do a backflip. I stared, completely captivated. "Well, look who's awake," she said. "Damn, kid, you've got a thick skull. A crash like that should have killed you." The voice that came out of that angelic face was a thick, gravelly Texas drawl. I blinked, convinced my ears were deceiving me. It shattered every beautiful fantasy I had just constructed. How could such a sweet-looking girl have a voice like a drill sergeant? "You want water, right? Here, open up." I stared at her blankly and, on instinct, opened my mouth. The water felt like a miracle. My head was clearing up. I frowned, trying to figure out who this beautiful, foul-mouthed woman could be. Just then, a nurse came in to check on me. "Nurse, excuse me," I called out. "Who is she?" I pointed to the woman, who was now sitting on a chair, one leg casually crossed over the other. The moment I said it, both the woman on the chair and the nurse stared at me with wide, shocked eyes. I scratched my head, feeling completely lost. The nurse spoke first. "She's your wife. Don't you remember? My wife." I shot up in the bed, my voice a shocked squeak. "Wife? Holy crap. Since when did I have a wife?" I turned to look at the woman on the chair, who was now staring at her shoes, seemingly deep in thought. She had a beautiful face and a pretty great figure. If she was my wife, I guess I wasn't getting the short end of the stick. "That's right. Your burner phone has her listed as the wife," the nurse said, looking just as confused as I felt. It finally clicked for Chloe. That's why the hospital had called her and referred to her as Mrs. Miller. It was all because of that stupid contact name. But from the looks of it, this idiot had completely lost his memory. It was a golden opportunity. Chloe looked up, her expression instantly transforming into one of deep, heartbreaking sorrow. "That's right, honey," she said, her voice now a soft, gentle whisper. "I'm your wife, Chloe. Don't you remember me?" She started to cry, fat tears rolling down her cheeks. Hearing her gentle voice and seeing her wounded expression, I shivered for some reason. I chalked it up to the post-accident chills. But her new voice felt strangely different from the one I'd heard just moments ago. Still, when the nurse confirmed she was listed as my wife in my phone, a little spark of happiness ignited in my chest. I believed her. I reached out and took her hand. "Chloe," I said earnestly, "I don't know why, but I can't remember you. I'm so sorry." It was the first time Jake had ever looked at her with such raw emotion, and Chloe was completely flustered. She could feel her heart hammering against her ribs as his fingers laced with hers, and a deep blush spread across her face. I saw her face turning redder and felt her palm start to sweat. Worried she was running a fever, I reached my other hand toward her forehead. The nurse looked on with disdain. "Get a room," she muttered under her breath, before rolling her eyes and walking out. The room was small. Despite her quiet voice, both Chloe and I heard her. I awkwardly pulled my hand back. Wifey, are you okay?" I asked, rubbing the back of my neck. Hearing him call her wifey so casually made Chloe feel like her face was on fire. "Jerk," she whispered, then covered her face with her hands and ran out of the room. Now, I was alone, sitting there completely bewildered. What the hell was going on? One by one, everyone had abandoned me. I shrugged, which was a big mistake. A sharp pain shot through my body, and I winced. Only then did I take stock of my injuries. My left arm and chest were wrapped tightly in bandages. My head felt constricted, and a neck brace made turning my head an exercise in misery. The painkillers must have been wearing off, because a deep, throbbing ache was setting in. I looked at the colorful tattoos covering my right arm and snorted. The sound turned into a pained hiss as it aggravated my wounds. Was I really this much of a dork? A full-sleeve tattoo of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Why not My Little Pony while I was at it? I shook my head, immediately forgetting about my neck, and hissed in pain again. Okay, that was it. I was staying perfectly still. Meanwhile, Chloe had marched straight to the doctor's office. Dr. Evans, why did my husband lose his memory? Chloe asked, her voice filled with anxiety as she faced the man in the white coat. Dr. Evans held the film up to the light, studying it carefully. During the accident, his head sustained a significant impact, he explained, turning back to her. It caused some minor bruising on the brain, which is likely pressing on a nerve and causing the amnesia. It's not a threat to his overall health, however. So, is there a chance he'll get his memory back? Chloe asked, biting her lip. Dr. Evans put down his pen and steepled his fingers, his expression serious. It's hard to say. He might recover it in a few days, or he might never get it back. Chloe's brain filtered out everything else except for never get it back. A wave of pure joy washed over her. She thanked the doctor profusely and practically skipped out of the office. Dr. Evans watched her go, completely baffled by her cheerful demeanor, before returning to his paperwork. When Chloe returned to the room, she was carrying a thermos. Honey, you must be starving, she chirped, walking to my bedside. I made some chicken soup. Here, have some. I looked at her with the expression of a man facing his executioner. For the last 10 minutes, my back had been itching in a spot I just couldn't reach. With no one around and the call button out of arm's reach, any major movement sent pain shooting through me. I had just been suffering in silence. She was my savior, but it was still awkward. Then again, she's my wife, right? What's so weird about asking her to scratch my back? I took a deep breath, but looking at her smiling face, my courage failed me. Honey, I mumbled, could you do me a favor? Even though I'd called her that a few times already, Chloe still blushed. She put down the thermos. Of course, she said softly. Could you scratch my back? I can't reach it. I watched Chloe's face turn a shade of crimson so deep I was genuinely impressed. This wife of mine was so shy. You know what? Never mind. Where? Her voice cut me off before I could finish. She looked up, her face flushed, which only made her more beautiful. I was mesmerized. My left shoulder blade. I said, my voice a little dazed. I felt a slight tickle in my nose and quickly wiped it with my right hand. I checked my palm. Thank God. No embarrassing nosebleed. As for Chloe, the thought of touching his back made her hesitate. But one look at the dazed man on the bed, and she steeled herself. She reached over and started scratching. Just you wait, Jake Miller, she thought. Once I trick you into signing that marriage certificate, I'm going to make you give me 8 sons. We'll see how cocky you are then. I shivered, a sudden, inexplicable feeling of malice washing over me. I glanced around the room, but there was nothing. Looking at the woman who was willing to lean over and scratch my back, I couldn't help but think, to have a wife like this, what more could a man ask for? Little did I know, the source of that malice was my beautiful, loving wife. After the itch was gone, Chloe opened the thermos and began feeding me the chicken soup, spoonful by spoonful. I could see she genuinely loved me. She blew on every single spoonful to cool it down before giving it to me. Honey, I asked, watching her gently blow on the spoon. How'd I get hurt so badly? Chloe knew perfectly well he had crashed because he was rushing home to see her. But looking at his clueless, innocent face, a mischievous thought popped into her head. Well, she began, you were on your way home to get your birth certificate so we could go get married and you crashed into a truck. The sudden return of her thick Texas drawl caught me completely off guard. I just stared at her, speechless. Chloe realized her mistake. She had been so pleased with herself, she'd forgotten to keep her voice soft. She cleared her throat. My love, she said, her voice once again gentle and melodic. You were in such a hurry to get our marriage license that you hit a semi. You have no idea how worried I was about you. She grabbed my right hand and started crying again. Seeing her cry made me feel helpless. I completely forgot about the accent issue. My entire focus was on the weeping girl in front of me. Hey, it's okay, don't cry, I said, trying to comfort her. I'm fine, see? No missing arms or legs. Even though moving my bandaged left arm was agony, I reached up and awkwardly patted her head. Chloe hadn't meant to cry. It was just an act to cover her embarrassment. But his clumsy, heartfelt attempt to console her touched a nerve and the tears became real. "You idiot," she sniffled. After a moment, she composed herself and continued feeding me the soup. Seeing her red-rimmed eyes, I lifted my right hand and gently wiped away a tear from the corner of her eye. We looked at each other and smiled. She leaned her head into my hand, nuzzling my palm like a kitten. A few minutes later, a nurse walked in, looking exasperated. "Could you two hurry it up? I need a change of dressing. I've been waiting outside for half an hour." Chloe and I exchanged a glance, our faces flushing with embarrassment. Suddenly, Chloe shoved the entire thermos of soup at my mouth. I instinctively opened up, and she poured the remaining contents down my throat. I looked up at her, stunned. How could she go from being so gentle to so rough in a split second? Chloe didn't seem to notice. The two of them could be as sappy as they wanted when they were alone, but she couldn't stand an audience. After force-feeding me, she quickly packed up the thermos and stormed out of the room. The move left not just me, but also the nurse, with our jaws hanging open. After Chloe left, the nurse came over to my bed, pointed a thumb toward the door, and said hesitantly, "Your wife, she's..." I just shrugged. I guess she was just embarrassed. The nurse changed my dressing, gave me the standard instructions about keeping it dry, and left. After that day, every nurse on the floor knew about the deeply in love couple in room 103, and we lived up to the hype. Thanks to Chloe's meticulous care, my recovery was remarkably fast. I still hadn't regained my memory, but I felt happy. Life was good. A month of being bedridden and fed a diet of pure chicken soup had taken its toll. The very sight of it now made me want to puke. The faint outline of abs I once had merged into one big, soft mound. I stepped on a scale today for the first time. I gained 20 pounds. No wonder I felt so sluggish. Just then, the door opened. It was my wife, ready for another feeding session. A month ago, the sight of that thermos filled me with joy. Now it filled me with dread. But this time, she had good news. "Honey, Dr. Evan said you can go home this afternoon to continue recovering." I beamed at her. "That's fantastic. I feel like I'm turning into a fossil in this bed." She expertly opened the thermos. "Drink up, honey. It'll help you heal faster." I looked at the greasy sheen on the surface of the soup and swallowed hard. "Can I? Maybe skip it today, honey?" I asked, my voice pleading. "What do you think, honey?" From her deceptively sweet smile, I knew there was no escape. I had learned the rules of engagement with this wife of mine. Go along with her, and she's all sweet talk and gentleness. Cross her, and you'd better be prepared for the consequences. Under her loving gaze, I reluctantly choked down the soup. After I finished, it occurred to me that we still weren't officially married. "Honey," I said, "why don't we go get our marriage license this afternoon? No point in putting it off, right?" She slowly leaned in, her face just inches from mine, a playful smirk on her lips. "Are you sure about that?" Her expression confused me. Didn't she say I got into the accident rushing to do exactly this? Is there a problem? "No problem. No problem at all," Chloe said. She had planned on slowly manipulating him into it, but here he was walking right into the trap. Honestly, playing the part of the demure, gentle girlfriend for a month had been exhausting. Once we're married, and he still has amnesia, she thought, all the chores are his. And I'll make him give me 8 sons. Let's see him try to run away then. She almost laughed out loud. I watched the series of emotions flicker across her face and felt a pang of regret. Was I marrying a crazy person? But then I looked at her beautiful face and her great figure and decided, crazy it is. Crazy people have their own kind of luck. And no, it wasn't just because she was hot. Soon, we were standing in front of the Travis County Clerk's office. I stared at the sign. I never thought the first place I'd go after leaving the hospital would be here. Of course, I wasn't doing this on a whim. Over the past month, she had told me all about us. How we were childhood friends, how I had a crush on her and would always tease her and steal her toys. How in high school, I'd torn up love letters other boys gave her. How after my parents went bankrupt, I became a broke nobody, and she was the only one who stuck by me. Her stories felt vaguely familiar, so I believed them. That, combined with her devoted care over the past month, was enough to convince me. "Are you coming in or what? What are you staring at?" Chloe's voice pulled me back. I turned and looked at her beautiful face, finding it hard to believe someone like her would choose to marry someone like me. I smiled and took her hand. It was soft and smooth like polished marble. I let her inside. We took a number and waited. As the numbers on the screen got closer to ours, my heart started pounding. Chloe, on the other hand, was getting impatient. Why was this taking so long? She couldn't wait to marry him. An opportunity like this wouldn't come again in a million years. Number 34. That's us, Chloe said, nudging a dazed Jake. Oh, right, I stammered, scrambling to my feet. My palms were slick with nervous sweat. I clumsily straightened my shirt and led her toward the counter. Relax, you're crushing my hand, Chloe whispered, feeling the dampness of his palm and the sheer force of his grip. Sorry, I'm just a little nervous, I said, my words tumbling over each other. I know. It's okay, honey, she said, gently patting his arm. She leaned in and gave him a soft kiss on the cheek. I took a deep breath. I watched as the clerk stamped our marriage certificate, making it official. Both Chloe and I let out a secret sigh of relief. The moment we stepped outside, before I could even get a good look at it, Chloe snatched the certificate and stuffed it into her purse. For safekeeping, she announced. What could I say? A happy wife is a happy life. I watched her take a picture of the certificate with her phone, giggling like a fool. My silly wife was just too cute. Little did I know, Chloe was already blasting the picture to her family group chat. Childhood friend is a pig. Marriage_certificate. JPG. Childhood friend is a pig. Guess who managed to trap her childhood sweetheart? That's right, it's me. Childhood friend is a pig. Smug_emoji. JPG. The serious one. Wow, you actually pulled it off. How'd you do it? Beautiful Queen Susan. My God, Chloe. All those years of beating him up, was that just for show? Childhood friend is a pig. You all better get ready to welcome your new son-in-law. You know him already. I'll bring him by in a few days. After sending the messages, Chloe smiled and put her phone away. She looked at the handsome man beside her. The man she had a crush on since they were kids was now her husband. Unable to contain herself, she planted a big kiss on his cheek. I pretended to be annoyed, wiping my cheek with my hand, but that seemed to flip a switch. She started pecking my face like a woodpecker. Okay, save some for home. Will you? We're in public. I laughed, gently pushing her away. I started walking toward our car, completely oblivious to the dangerous glint in her eyes. Now that I have him, it's all legal, right? Chloe thought, trailing behind me. Should I drug him tonight? No, that's not very classy. She walked slowly, lost in her debate. Thump. She walked straight into something hard. Ow, she mumbled, reaching up to rub her forehead, but a hand got there first. You okay? Honey, you have to watch where you're going, I said, rubbing her head. She looked so adorable in that moment. Chloe looked up at the gentle, caring man in front of her and made up her mind. Definitely drugging him. A man who looks this good, has a great body, and a sweet personality. If I don't lock him down, some other vixen will. Better me than them. Chloe drove me to a villa in Westlake Hills. The interior was stunning. All marble floors and soaring ceilings. Wow, I thought. So this is where I live? But some things felt off. Certain items seemed completely out of place amid the luxury. On a sleek, expensive-looking coffee table sat a faded, peeling yo-yo. In the kitchen, a golden stand held up a scuffed, old soccer ball. But what really caught my eye was the glass display case in the living room, filled from top to bottom with collectible figurines. I couldn't tear my eyes away. These things, though old and worn, felt strangely familiar. They made this opulent house feel a little less like a stranger's home. Chloe watched my expression closely from behind. She breathed a silent sigh of relief. Good thing I'm a genius, she thought. I brought all his sentimental junk over from his crappy apartment. It clashes with the decor, but it seems to have worked. When she saw him staring, mesmerized at the figurine collection, she felt a surge of pride. I know exactly what you like. Your brain might be scrambled, but your heart still knows. I spent another month recovering in that villa. It was a month of pure mental torture. I don't know if Chloe was doing it on purpose, but every day she would walk around in skimpy outfits that drove me insane. I had more than a few nosebleeds, but my body hadn't fully healed, and Chloe would only let me look, never touch. I was powerless. Chloe, for her part, was struggling too. She had been dying to pounce on him for weeks, but she knew he wasn't fully recovered yet. She had to choose between one good meal and a lifetime of feasts. She chose the latter, but seeing him sitting on the couch, all handsome and oblivious, made her grind her teeth in frustration. The clattering of pots and pans from the kitchen grew louder every day. Finally, the day of my follow-up appointment arrived. I was back in Dr. Evans's office. He gave my arm and chest a quick check. "The wounds have healed nicely," he said with a smile. "By the way, have you recovered your memory?" The first part of his sentence made me happy. The second part made my face fall. I shook my head with a bitter smile. Dr. Evans gave me a reassuring look. "Don't worry about it. It just means the bruising hasn't fully subsided. It doesn't seem to be affecting your daily life, so just relax." I nodded. "You're pretty much fully recovered. No need for any more follow-ups. You're free to go." Chloe, who had been waiting patiently, linked her arm through mine and led me out. When we got to the main lobby, she pushed me down onto a bench. Her eyes had a strange, excited gleam that I couldn't decipher. "You wait here for a minute," she said. "I forgot to ask Dr. Evans something." Before I could even respond, she was gone, practically sprinting back the way we came. I was left sitting there, muttering to myself, "Didn't he just say I was all better? What else could there be to ask?" Chloe burst back into Dr. Evans's office. He looked up, surprised to see her again. "Can I help you with something else?" he asked. Chloe's eyes were shining with excitement. She shut the door behind her. Later, watching her walk away, Dr. Evans shook his head and chuckled. "Kids these days. TSK, TSK. What a generation." When Chloe came back, she was carrying a dark plastic bag. I couldn't see what was inside, but I trusted her and didn't ask. I just looked into her eyes. The way she was looking at me, it was like a predator sizing up its prey. "Honey, what's wrong?" I asked, a shiver running down my spine. "Nothing at all, my dearest husband. Something was very, very wrong." She tilted her head, batting her eyelashes, and her voice was sickly sweet. "It was just plain weird. Honey, let's go home. I just remembered I left the laundry out on the line." I swallowed hard. "You know what, honey?" I said nervously. "You go ahead. I think I'll hang out here for a bit longer." In a flash, she had me in a chokehold and on the ground. "I tried talking to you nice," she growled, her Texas drawl back in full force. "But you just don't listen, do ya? Guess we gotta do this the hard way." Now that she knew I was healed, she didn't hold back. The move left me completely stunned. My mind was reeling. Who am I? Where am I? What happened to my sweet, gentle wife? And where did she get that kind of strength? While I was still processing, she dragged me out to the car. I clung to the seatbelt for dear life as she drove like a bat out of hell. The moment the car screeched to a halt in front of the house, I fumbled with the door and practically fell out, crawling to the nearest trash can of vomit. A chokehold. A drag race. What the hell is her problem? Before I could even catch my breath, she grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and hauled me to my feet. "Holy crap, she's strong," was my only thought. My legs moved against my will. "Honey, calm down, calm down," I yelled. Whatever I did, I don't deserve the death penalty. My pleas only made her walk faster. She kicked the solid wood front door open, splintering the frame. I was genuinely impressed. She tossed me into the bathroom, gave me one long, deep look, and then disappeared into the bedroom. Seeing the look on her face, I decided it was best to listen to my wife. "It's just a shower, right? What's the big deal?" After I finished showering, I peeked out of the bathroom. I didn't see her. I tiptoed toward the bedroom. As soon as I reached the doorway, a hand shot out and yanked me inside. I was lying helplessly on the couch, staring at my reflection in a handheld mirror. My lips were swollen and pale, my face was sallow, and I had dark circles under my eyes that would make a panda jealous. I can't take it anymore. Who lives like this? She was treating me like a workhorse. I went from a full tank to running on empty. It's over. There's not a single drop left. "Honey, come drink your soup. You must be tired." Hearing that sickly sweet voice, I shot up from the couch. For the past 2 weeks, it had been an endless cycle of fortifying soups and herbal supplements. The sight of her holding a bowl made me want to gag. "Don't come near me," I yelled. "I'm not drinking it." Her expression changed in an instant. "So, you're choosing the hard way, are you? Don't think I won't force you." Still wearing her apron, Chloe slammed the bowl down on the coffee table and advanced on me. "What? What are you doing? Domestic abuse is a crime, you know." "Then drink the damn soup." I glanced at the bowl. It couldn't even be called soup anymore. It was a thick, sludgy concoction of goji berries, yams, and who knows what else. I looked at her with a pained expression. She made a fist and held it in front of my face. Under the threat of her superior firepower, I reluctantly picked up the bowl and downed the soup. Seeing me comply, Chloe's sweet smile returned instantly. "That's my good boy," she cooed, snuggling into my lap and resting her head on my chest. As for me, I stared blankly out the window. This couldn't go on. In just a couple of weeks, I'd lost at least 10 pounds. Then, an idea struck me. I hadn't even met her parents yet. I grabbed her wandering hands. "Honey," I said, my eyes shining with desperation. "We've been married for a while now, and I haven't met your parents. Why don't we go visit them today?" It was only then that Chloe remembered she'd told her parents she would bring him by. She had been so lost in her newfound marital bliss that she'd completely forgotten. Still, she couldn't figure out why he was so excited about meeting her parents. But she thought about it and agreed. It was probably time. Seeing her nod, I jumped up and started packing. To Chloe's amazement, I had all our bags packed and waiting by the door in under 10 minutes. All right, she said, slightly bemused by my enthusiasm. "You wait here. I'm going to go put on some makeup." She headed upstairs. I watched her go, so relieved I could have cried. Finally, I thought, a vacation. 3 hours later, as dusk was settling, Chloe drove us out into the Texas Hill Country. We pulled up to a sprawling but understated ranch house. Standing by the front gate were two vibrant, healthy-looking older people. They had to be her parents. I jumped out of the car, rushed over, and shook their hands enthusiastically. "Dad, Mom." Thankfully, Chloe had given them a heads up about my amnesia, so they played along perfectly. Her mother, Susan, however, took one look at my haggard face and knew instantly who was responsible. She shot her husband a look that clearly said, "Look what your daughter did." Mr. Anderson, on the receiving end of the undeserved glare, could only sigh. He saw my face too and thought, my God, she really is trying to kill him. He secretly gave Chloe a thumbs up. Susan pulled me inside sympathetically, while Chloe and her father exchanged a look and followed behind. Once we were all seated at the dinner table, Susan looked at me with pity. "You must be starving, Jake. Eat up." After weeks of nothing but health supplements, my taste buds had gone on strike. Seeing a table laden with brisket, mac and cheese, and cornbread, I didn't hesitate. I dug in like a starving wolf. Manners. What are manners? If you have a problem with it, talk to your daughter. Seeing me devour the food, both Mr. and Mrs. Anderson shot Chloe another disapproving look. Chloe watched me embarrass her in front of her parents, her face a mask of calm, but inside she was seething. "Just you wait until we get home," she thought. "If you can get out of bed for a week, my last name isn't Anderson." Just then, Susan brought out a bowl of chicken soup from the kitchen and placed it in front of me. "Here, Jake," she said lovingly, patting my head. "Have some soup. It's good for you." I stared at the soup with a sense of impending doom. But this was my first time meeting them. It would be rude to refuse. I gritted my teeth and drank it all in one go. After I finished, I felt a wave of heat spread through my body. I figured it was just a hot soup. But then Susan brought me another bowl. I drank that one down too. The heat intensified. My body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. "Mom," I slurred, "it's really hot in here. Can we turn on the AC?" It was only then that Susan remembered. She had spiked the soup. It was supposed to be a little aid for her daughter, in case she needed help seducing me. But looking at my worn-out state, it was clear her daughter didn't need any help. In fact, she had nearly drained me dry. Susan and her husband exchanged a panicked look. He had been in on the plan too, and had also completely forgotten. They both turned to look at Chloe. Chloe had no idea what was going on. She was wondering why I was so hot when she saw the look her parents were giving her. It clicked. She cleared her throat awkwardly. At that point, I passed out, my head hitting the table with a thud. My last conscious thought was, I've been drugged. The three of them looked at each other, then guiltily looked down. They worked together to carry me to a guest room. Before leaving, Susan looked at Chloe with concern. "Honey," she said, "don't overdo it." Mr. Anderson just looked at her, speechless. He was genuinely worried she might kill his new son-in-law. Chloe just waved a dismissive hand. I know. You guys can go." She slammed the door shut. Outside, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson looked at each other. Their brilliant plan had backfired, and now they had poisoned their son-in-law. They couldn't face him. They quickly went back to their room, packed a bag, and prepared to make a quick getaway. Before leaving, Susan sent Chloe a text. Beautiful Queen Susan. Chloe, honey, your father and I are going on a spontaneous trip. If all goes well, we might never come back. Chloe had just gotten out of the shower when she saw her mom's text. She burst out laughing. She knew exactly what was going on, but her dad had run off too. He must have been in on it. Her straight-laced father, helping her mom with a drugging scheme. The thought made her laugh even harder. I woke up the next day with a splitting headache. I knew without a doubt that last night's soup had been drugged. I wanted to cry. I had come to my in-laws' house for a relaxing vacation, only to fall into another one of their traps. I reached for my clothes on the floor, but my legs wouldn't work. Panicked, I threw off the covers and slapped my thighs. Thank God they weren't numb, just weak. My movement woke Chloe. She stretched languidly and snuggled up against me. Morning, honey, she mumbled, her eyes still closed. I just sighed. Morning. What time is it? I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. It was 3 p.m. I sat up in a panic. Get up, it's 3 in the afternoon. Your parents must be wondering where we are. Chloe just leaned back against the headboard, a mischievous grin on her face. Oh, they felt so guilty about what they did to their wonderful son-in-law that they left on a trip. They said they might be gone for a long time. Really, my entire body went limp, and I collapsed back on a bed. I didn't want to move. I didn't ever want to move again. I miss my old sweet wife. Sometimes I wondered if this was like some kind of novel, where she had an evil twin. But I'd seen her transform with my own eyes. No such luck. I buried my head under the covers, ignoring Chloe's attempts to pull them off. She had gotten what she wanted last night, so she wasn't in the mood to torment me further. After a few half-hearted tugs, she gave up and got out of bed. But as she took a few steps, she frowned. Something felt off. She pushed through the discomfort and left the room. Hearing the door close, I peeked out. She was really gone. I tried to get out of bed. The moment my feet touched the floor and I tried to stand, my knees buckled and I pitched forward, hitting the floor hard. It took all my strength to crawl back onto the bed. Looks like I wasn't going anywhere today. A sense of deep injustice washed over me. Why could she walk around normally while I was incapacitated? She wasn't that much stronger than me, was she? Lost in these thoughts, I fell asleep again. When Chloe came to wake me for dinner, she saw me sleeping so soundly, she didn't have the heart to disturb me. She walked quietly to the bed and looked down at my handsome face. She leaned in and gave me a feather-light kiss. Then her eyes fell on the mountain of used tissues on the floor, and she couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. My husband is a beast. As she bent down to clean up, a thought struck her. Her period was late. Way late. She wasn't menopausal. There was only one other possibility. I'm pregnant. Chloe almost shouted with joy. She looked at the man sleeping like a log on the bed, and a sudden wave of annoyance washed over her. She slapped him across the face. What? Who? Who hit me? I sat up, completely disoriented. I did. I have my pride. Even if she was my wife, she couldn't just slap me for no reason. I was about to lose my temper when she dropped a bomb on me. I'm pregnant. Go ahead. Hit me back if you dare. I stared at her triumphant expression, stunned by her words. I reached out a trembling hand and placed it on her stomach. Are you serious? I stammered, my eyes wide. I'm not sure yet. Go buy me a pregnancy test. I completely ignored her arrogant tone. Okay. I said, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me. My aches and pains vanished. You just lie down and rest. I'll go buy one right now. I ran to the garage, only to find a collection of luxury cars. I didn't know how to drive. Defeated, I video called Chloe. Honey, these are all cars. I don't have a license. What do I do? Chloe sighed. She'd forgotten that the poor fool had never been to afford a car, let alone learn to drive one. She was about to suggest calling an Uber when she saw a framed photo in the living room of her dad with a motorcycle. Check the garage again, she said. There should be a motorcycle in there somewhere. Look for it. She hung up. I was about to ask if I even knew how to ride a motorcycle, but she was gone. I could only hope for the best. After a thorough search, I found it tucked away under a white tarp. It was a beautiful machine, its white frame gleaming like a wild stallion. I fell in love with it instantly. I climbed on, and my hands moved with a familiarity that shocked me, turning the key and firing up the engine. The roar of the engine was like music to my ears, but I hadn't forgotten my mission. As a garage door opened, I shot out like an arrow. The nearest pharmacy was an hour's ride away. I made it just 1 minute before closing time. I hung the small plastic bag on the handlebars for the ride home. I drove slower on the way back, my eyes constantly drifting to the bag. I was going to be a dad. It was during one of these moments of distraction that a large truck suddenly pulled out in front of me. I slammed on the brakes instinctively. The bike screeched to a halt just a few feet from the truck's bumper. The driver leaned out his window and screamed a string of curses at me, but I didn't even hear him. It all came flooding back. The same kind of truck, the same desperate squeeze of the brakes, the memory of the brake failure, the crash. It all played out in my mind's eye. My back was drenched in cold sweat, but a far more terrifying thought now occupied my mind. What was I going to do about Chloe? Not only did I remember my old life, but I also hadn't forgotten a single moment of the past few months with her. I pulled over to the side of the road. I reached for a cigarette that wasn't there. My pocket was empty except for a few pieces of candy Chloe had stuffed in it before I left. I sat there for a long time before finally unwrapping a piece of candy and putting it in my mouth. I remembered her stories in the hospital, the ones about us, and a smile touched my lips. She had twisted everything around. She was the one who had bullied me. I remembered her feeding me chicken soup, spoonful by spoonful. I had always hated chicken soup, but I had drunk every last drop from her hand willingly. I remembered her cooking for me, even if it was all performance-enhancing. I remembered the smile on her face as she brought the bowls out from the kitchen. I looked up at the sky and smiled. Should I pretend I still don't remember? The thought popped into my head, but I immediately dismissed it. Are you kidding me? She'd kill me. But then I looked at the pregnancy test hanging from my handlebars. We were already married, and the idiot who had proposed that idea was me. I rubbed my face in frustration. The sweet memories of the past few months battled with the memories of her bullying. The little devil on my shoulder was winning, but then an image of her sweet, genuine smile flashed in my mind. I looked up at the sky again and laughed. Looks like I'm stuck with you for life, doesn't it? I started the bike and headed back. Maybe I had fallen for her the first time I saw her, all those years ago. Why else would I have always dangled my favorite toys in front of her just to get her attention? Or maybe it was these past few months that did it. With love, who can really say? I opened the door to the house, my heart pounding. I put on my best happy-go-lucky face and handed her the bag. She just gave me a long, searching look, took the bag, and disappeared in the bathroom. I was sure I hadn't given anything away. My happiness was genuine, after all. A few minutes later, Chloe burst out of the bathroom, a radiant smile on her face. She leaped into my arms. I had no idea what had caused this sudden shift in her mood. She leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "You remember, don't you, Jakey?" I froze. How could she possibly know? I asked her, but she wouldn't say. She just snuggled deeper into my arms. "Well, I'm pregnant with your baby now," she murmured against my chest. "You're not getting away from me." I just held her tighter and kissed her forehead. "Never," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." A boy's insecurity had kept him from confessing to the girl he loved, but the girl had played her hand. How could I fold now? 10 years later. "You're not serious," I said, utterly defeated. "You're pregnant again." I had number 6, who was busy with a toy balanced on my left hip, and number 7, who was still on the bottle in my right arm. Numbers 1 and 2 were helping me make sure their younger siblings weren't eating their own feet. The house sounded like a frog convention. A chorus of was echoing off the walls. All my tattoos were gone, lasered off under my wife's persuasion, except for the Ninja Turtle. Standing at the top of the stairs was Chloe, stretching like a cat. A sudden burst of energy seemed to hit her, and she started bounding down the stairs. I shot to my feet and rushed over to her. "Yep, how about that? Honey." Excited, thrilled. "I told you I was going to give you 8 sons." I just laughed and playfully swatted her arm. "How many times have I told you not to say I told you so in front of kids?" She pouted. "Oh, honey, I forgot." I looked at her and finally asked the question that had been bugging me for a decade. "Honey, how did you know, back then, that I had my memory back?" She just rolled her eyes. "Since when does an amnesiac remember the security code to the front door?" I just stood there, stunned. That one tiny detail. That's all it took. Chloe paid me no mind, walking over to the gaggle of children on the floor. I watched as they all looked up at her, their cries instantly ceasing. They just stared at her, their little arms and legs flailing with excitement. I smiled, and with the 2 little ones still in my arms, joined the pile. Sometimes, I'm actually grateful to that old scammer. But if I ever see him again, I'm still going to slap him.